Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hollywood Persona, where we review movies, give you movie news, and box office updates. This week, we're just going to give you some box office updates, a couple little movie news things we want to talk about, and then we're just going to get right into movie reviews because we have not talked enough movies, and we have so many piled up that we'd love to talk to you about. But today, we are going to do American Fiction, Poor Things, Wonka, and Society of the Snow for sure. We might get to Eileen's spoilers, but God, there's a million more we'd love to talk to you about, but it's just timing, and nobody wants a 3-hour podcast. So, yeah, how's it going, Ant?
Hey, Mitch, doing great. Yeah, I mean, whatever we can't get to, we'll just keep going as we go because we're in the slow season, so we can talk about
Exactly.
Mean Girls and Book of Clarence and stuff as we go on.
Yeah, I haven't been to the theater except to see American Fiction. Like, I haven't gone to see Night Swim, Beekeeper, Mean Girls. Like, I've just skipped it all.
Dude, I'm feeling a little guilty too because the last time I went was Thursday. I had plans to go to the theater Friday and Saturday, and just other stuff comes up.
It's cold.
Yeah, I guess I'm still in like the twilight period of this would be considered very warm in Chicago, and the last winter I lived was in Chicago, so I'm like, I'm in heaven. This is great to me. So
yeah.
So tonight I'll be back, and hopefully every day this week I'll be in the theater.
Cool. I'm excited to hear what you think about Mean Girls, which you are seeing tonight.
Yeah.
But why don't you give us a little rundown of the box office? We'll start with that.
Yeah, let's do that. So this is the week ending Sunday. We're recording tonight on the 14th, so this is the 12th, 13th, and 14th. Mean Girls had a pretty good opening with 28 million, I think. So these are estimate numbers, people. So the finals will come out tomorrow.
Yeah.
And this might fluctuate. Some outlets are reporting it near 30 million, but 28 million domestic for North America. Pretty good showing. This was supposed to be originally Paramount was going to dump it on their streaming service.
Oh.
Yeah, they're like, well, maybe we should try and make some money off it, which is why I think they decided to hide the fact from the trailers that this is a musical. But so did Wonka, so did The Color Purple. It's just been a weird trend, I guess, because musicals haven't done that well recently.
Yeah.
Dear Evan Hansen, In the Heights.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But those were pandemic, so it's hard to compare.
Good calls.
But, musicals haven't been that hot. I mean, except, if you look back to La La Land, that one did really well. But
that had a lot going for it other than the music, but still.
Right. Yeah. So Mean Girls, first week, 28 million, good opening.
Second place, sorry, just to say it took over Wonka. It beat Wonka. Like it is like Wonka was in number 1 last week for its third week. But they have been knocked down. But anyways, you were going to get to that. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just the next one, which is also new, that Jason Statham movie, The Beekeeper, made 16.7, which is also pretty good.
Yeah.
For a January action movie with Statham. I mean, you look at his box office receipts. He hasn't had an opening weekend at that high for a while. I'd have to look. I'm going to look that up because I think his last openings have been way, way, way lower than that. So
he's been doing so much with Guy Ritchie, and Guy Ritchie just doesn't really get the views.
Oh, right. God, that one I saw, Force de Guerre, or that one that had that French title, that bombed hard. That was just last year.
Yeah.
And then, Wonka came in third, knocked down from number 1. But it still was only a 40% drop. It made another 8.3. And it's, as we were talking about before the episode went on air, it's almost at 400 million worldwide, which is really
500.
Good. 500, right. It was at 480 or something. Yeah. So that's doing great. $500 million worldwide. That's pretty damn good for Warner Brothers. In fourth, this was an interesting one to see this still hanging around. And I think last week it earned instead of lost. Oh, I might be wrong. Anyway, its percentage of loss in revenue over week has been extremely low. So it's been hanging around in fourth place. Anyone But You, that Sydney Sweeney dumb rom-com.
So I did see parts of an article today about how the word of mouth on this one has just circulated, and not trying to sound sexist, but mostly through women saying, oh, you got to check this out, and TikTok and stuff. So it's just carried on through word of mouth, and it's hung around that 3, 4, 5 spot.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised. And you know what? Good for them.
Yeah.
What's his name is a hunky hunk, Glenn Powell. And
Glenn Powell, thank you. From
from
Top Gun.
Top Gun, yeah. And he shows way more skin than Sweeney does. And to be honest, I wanted to see Sydney Sweeney when I went to see the movie, and it flips the script and shows more of him. I guess they know their audience.
Yeah, I guess.
And yeah, he's like impossibly handsome and good looking in it. So hey, women can have eye candy just as we do. Good for them.
Yeah.
I thought the movie was terrible, but it made $7 million. If you were with a group of friends, and that's probably how a lot of women go see this, is like they get some drinks, they laugh at it because it's like
yeah,
there's rom-com conveniences like running into someone at the airport randomly, but this like takes it to the next level. They like basically ruin a wedding because they're fighting. Like it's her sister's wedding, and the whole wedding is about them, not the people getting married. It's like ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah. You'll eventually see it. It's really, really stupid.
I will.
It was shot on location. It has some cool shots of Sydney in the opera house and stuff. So
okay.
So yeah, if you're like, again, I could see someone liking this for entertainment purposes. I don't want to take that away from anybody. So
yeah,
is there shit I like that I can't explain?
That's true.
So that made $7 million in fourth place, and its domestic total is over 55. So that's pretty damn good for that. And then Migration is still holding on with another 6 million, and it's at 85 million, which is pretty good. So Aquaman number 6 right behind it. Looks like it's going to leg out to be okay. We talked about this on the last episode on how it's doing okay now. It's not like a huge bomb like Blue Beetle or The Flash. Then followed up by Night Swim, an Indian movie, The Boys in the Boat, and The Book of Clarence. The Book of Clarence hurts because it was a new movie and it only pulled in 2.5 million. That sucks.
Yeah,
it deserves better. We'll review that eventually because it's an okay comedy. It deserves better than debuting at number 10. So
yeah.
that's the box office.
Speaking of that, before we run away, I currently, in our box office draft, I currently have 3 movies now making money. So
nice.
that's The Beekeeper, Mean Girls, and Night Swim.
Ooh.
And Night Swim has broken over its budget by 15 million.
Sounds right. What was it? Was it budget 5 or something?
15 million. So it's made 30 million worldwide.
That's a pretty good start, Mitch.
Mean Girls only needs another 1.5 million to go over. Beekeeper needs another 18 million, so we'll see if it can get there. So unfortunately, I think Book of Clarence is then going to end up being your bomb because it cost 40 million.
Ooh, that's a pretty high budget.
And it only made on Box Office Mojo it said 3 million, so I'm giving you that.
Yeah, it's at 3. So if next week it drops 50%,
yeah,
1.5, and then yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, that's not doing well. So yeah, we'll keep tracking that. That's our box office picks. If you had listened to our couple previous episodes, we did a little game where we pick 8 movies that we think will do well as if we are the studio selling these movies.
Exactly. And 2 little movies news things. I just wanted to say that David Gordon Green, the director of the most recent Halloween reboot trilogy, he directed all 3, and then he directed last year's Exorcist Believer, and he was pegged to direct 2 more Exorcist movies and had actually already written most of the script for the second one, if not all of it. And they have booted him from the movie. So the director's chair is open for The Exorcist Deceiver is what the second one's going to be called.
Which was supposedly on the calendar for next year in March.
But now it has been removed from the calendar in as of right now. So I'm assuming there's going to be rewrites. It's going to get a whole new looking at if they even make it. So
I think they will still make it, because if you remember, and listeners, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I remember reading that they paid $400 million for the rights to the franchise to make
oh
movies.
yeah, I remember talking about that.
Yeah, so they're gonna want their money back, and Exorcist is still a recognizable brand. So hey, the positive side of me says, good. He wasn't a good shepherd. He didn't do well with the later end of the new Halloweens, and this new one wasn't that great. So they can get some more creative people in there to take over. That's my take.
I mean, I don't know what the budget was, but worldwide it made 136 million. So it probably brought in a little bit of
I
money.
think it was 20 or 30. Like it made
Yeah.
money, but not as much, I think, as they would want.
So, anyways, and then you have a news story, and then we'll move on to movies.
Yeah, so you guys might have seen some headlines that Mia Goth is being sued by a background extra who claimed that he was kicked in the head during a scene in the upcoming Maxine, which I'm very much looking forward to. I'm sure you are too, Mitch.
Yeah.
The story is this: the guy is an extra, and his role was to be on the ground, covered in blood and stuff, probably already dead or whatever. And she has to run by him, and she stepped on his head during the first take. So he made a complaint to the second AD and said, "Hey, can you tell the actor, watch out for me? You hurt me when you stepped on me." And allegedly, this is alleged, she went through the next time and purposely kicked him in the head as she ran by or whatever.
Okay.
And then afterward, he alleges that when he was in the bathroom, she came and taunted and mocked him, and yeah, all that. So, and the guy said he had to pull over twice because of lightheadedness on his way home, blah blah blah. So that sounds pretty fucked up. There's always two sides to a story.
Yeah.
I wasn't on set, so I don't know what happens, but it sounds terrible. I hope it gets resolved. That's not cool.
Yeah, when you sent me that, you're like, Mia Goth kicked someone in the head. I just said good for her.
And
But
at first I was like, yeah, sure, fine. I didn't have any feelings either. And then I read the story and I'm like, oh wait, hold on, that's fucked up.
Yeah, hopefully that's not true.
Yeah,
and luckily she didn't.
Luckily
she didn't shoot and kill a cinematographer or anything.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah. Or have a bullet go through the cinematographer and then hit the director. Remember, that's what actually happened.
That's what happened on Rust?
Yeah.
It hit the director?
It went through the person it killed and injured another person. I thought the director.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wowzers.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So bad. That's why it was so bad. Yeah.
Well, I just saw American Fiction on Friday. You saw it 2 months ago almost?
November 27th. So yeah.
Okay.
I got so lucky to see this early, man.
Yeah, this finally just popped up in my area this weekend, and I was so happy to finally. And I knew nothing going into it. Not a thing.
Me too. I'd seen a snippet of the trailer walking into a theater.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that Jeffrey Wright was in it, and that's about it.
I was expecting Birdman-esque. I thought the way you talked about it, I kind of thought it was going to be I don't know, a little weird, a little out of the box, but really cool. And it's actually they play it straight more than I thought they would. But
yeah, it's a straight up drama, although there's a framing device, I guess I would call it.
Kinda, yeah.
Where it gets meta, it's extremely meta.
I'll explain it to anybody who doesn't know it. So it's called American Fiction. It was released last year, so it is eligible for the Oscars this year and expected to probably get a Best Picture nom.
That's what it's looking
hopefully. And so it's rated 14A. It's the logline on IMDb. A novelist who's fed up with the establishment profiting from, quote, black entertainment uses a pen name to write a book that propels him to the heart of hypocrisy and the madness he claims to disdain. And this stars Jeffrey Wright, Tracy Ellis Ross, John Ortiz, Erica Alexander, Leslie Uggams, that's kind of Keith. Yeah, Issa Rae, Keith David, Adam Brody, Sterling K. Brown. I don't know why he's not further up there. But
yeah, he was great.
but yeah, that's about it for recognizable people. But some
Keith
good
David has
character
a small
actors.
role.
Yeah, I said Keith.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So directed by Cord Jefferson, who
This is his debut.
he is. Yeah, he's really well known for The Good Place. He wrote 25 episodes or something. Yeah, he wrote 25 episodes and directed and stuff. So, yeah. So American Fiction.
What did you think of it?
I absolutely love this movie. The only thing I gave it 5 stars.
Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it.
So this movie is very meta, and as a white person, I don't know how to feel or what to say about it.
Yeah,
Like in
I
my
get that.
review, I said, "Oh, like it's great. We get to hear from like a quote unquote real black man like living like
In today's
and
world.
hear his story." But then in my head I'm like, "Well, all the other true stories that I've watched about black, individuals, those that are true stories, like those are someone's experience as well."
They're authentic, yeah.
Yeah. So like so then this character played by Jeffrey Wright,
Named Monk.
he is what's that?
Named Monk. His name is Monk in the movie.
Yes, his name is Monk. And he essentially has to write a fake story.
Issa Rae.
Yes, Issa Rae. And yeah, so she's a popular, she just has a book, and I shouldn't really but the way she ends up reading a part of her book, and it's very
I'm watching what you say. Careful.
what some people might consider more hood lingo,
yeah.
or maybe and she's writing this black experience that wasn't really her black experience, but she did interviews and blah blah blah, and he's listening to her talk and he's so frustrated. He's like, but this wasn't this woman's experience. This was a woman who went to a nice school and had money and blah blah blah. So he kind of writes this fake story, and then it becomes popular. And I don't want to give too much more away, but it's just interesting because he had to write a fake story in order to get noticed. But yet we're sitting there watching a black man's story, and we're riveted. We're enjoying it. So
yeah, and that's why I loved it, because of the layers of meta here.
The layers.
And at points where I'm like, oh shit, am I the joke? Like, are we the problem seeing this? Like, we're putting money towards something like this, like it really fucks with your head.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like being made a fool sometimes, yeah. But go on. Do you want to say more, or
do
you want me
can you turn your mic up a little? I don't know if...
Yeah, you know what? I accidentally turned it down. There we go.
Okay. Sorry. I just I was like, shit, I don't know. Yeah,
no, I accidentally turned it down trying to turn my headphones down.
Anyway. See, like I said, the movie feels realistic in a lot of ways, but this is Monk's realistic story, and this is one black family's story, and my white story is different from your white story, right? And this movie has a lot of emotion, a lot of heart. There's a lot of things that happen in this movie, a lot of different relationship stuff. We aren't giving anything away. Right. There are so many things, relationships that happen in this movie that are just lovely. And
there will for sure be dissertations written about the meaning of this movie for years to come. People smarter than both of us put together will be able to read into this movie in ways we can't even picture right now. I'm just not smart enough, but I could
Yeah.
tell that there's something here. And I saw it with a majority black audience actually,
See, I didn't.
which was
All
nice.
old white people.
And they were having a blast, and I was too. And the first memory or note I remember taking while watching this was, "Damn, I'm so embarrassed to be white," because there's an early scene or early scenes where they just talk about just how corny we can be. Yeah, so I just thought that was really funny and fun. And Jeffrey Wright's character here is so relatable because he is this intellectual. He comes from a good family. They have a live-in nurse. They're very wealthy, obviously. His sister is a doctor. I think even his brother, Sterling K.
He's a
Brown, is a
lawyer.
surgeon. I think he's a surgeon, plastic
Oh,
surgeon.
plastic surgeon. Yes.
Yeah, and so they come from a super wealthy family, and Monk has this chip on his shoulder because he hates how the black experience is portrayed in America and the West, as with like the way a lot of rappers do it, right? Where it's thug and chains and
And
cars
getting
and girls
shot
and getting
in, like,
shot
in
in
movies, they're getting
prison.
shot in gangs and stuff. And he's like, well, this isn't my black experience of life.
Right. And so he's frustrated by that, and that's understandable. You don't, especially from a minority group, you hear this all the time. We hear about this all the time. They don't like the way they're portrayed certain ways. Native American, anybody and everybody, gay population, anybody has problems with the way they're portrayed in movies. So you understand where he's coming from. And yeah, as a joke, as a lark, he's like, he hears Issa Rae's book and he's like, let me write some dumb shit like this. And of course it ends up going huge because he's a good writer. And just to pinpoint a scene in the movie I thought was done very well by this debut director, there's a scene where he is imagining his book. And watching someone write is boring on screen. If you're a director or cinema, you need to know how to show your audience someone writing. It's boring to watch Stephen King write a book or whatever. Writers in movies usually isn't the most exciting. But he does this great framing device where the people are in the room with him, and it's his cousin, and he comes home drunk, and he's mad at him for snitching him out to the cops because all the cocaine or whatever. And it was just done well. It was just done really well, in his mental pictures for him to write it. And so that was, again, another little thing that was like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. He's making something visual for us to watch instead of just Jeffrey Wright sitting there in front of a screen writing.
Yeah.
I have some other things to say, but go ahead.
No, there's a phone call scene. There's a couple phone call scenes that are funny, but there's a phone call scene with two black guys on one end of the phone and two white people on the other end of the phone. And as a white man, I was cringing so hard watching these white people kind of technically representing us in a way. One of them's gay, the other one's a woman, and they got the best actors for that scene. Yeah. Like, these two people like should be commended. Like, they were really funny. And just so cringy. And this, yeah, so that scene really sticks out for me. To nitpick, I didn't love the ending.
I can understand that. It ended up working for me. At first I was like, oh, if the air felt like it was knocked out of me, I'm like, whoa, no, wait.
Yeah.
But then as it sat, because it's now been over a month or 2 months since I've seen it, I've really come around to it because I was like, this can't be it. This isn't over. What do you mean? No. But I've come around to it I guess I thought maybe I didn't get the ending all that much, but I thought some more about it. It's really clever. It's very different. You won't be able to guess it, most likely. So yeah, I ended up liking it, but I could see why people might not be crazy about it.
To some, it's going to be unsatisfying, because you don't get all the answers, and that's what I found. Is like there's certain people in my life, if the ending is not like completely laid out, they don't like the movie. They'll you know what I mean? They're just like, well, fuck that movie then. And I'm like, well, I mean, you can kind of draw some conclusions. Like even at the end of Leave the World Behind, like people were like, "Well, I don't know everything that happened, so I'm
Yeah,
mad."
yeah.
And
Same.
I'm like,
I'm like, I thought it was just fine. I get they get to the
"Yeah,
shelter. We all it's they
yeah,
assume. I like when and that might come as a casualty of me and you seeing so many movies. We like to be tricked, challenged,
mm-hmm."
um, try different things. Because if it had wrapped up perfectly and closed all the loose ends, maybe it wouldn't have been as good. And maybe you would have disliked it a little more. But I can see why
Maybe it
people
would have
don't.
been a little cheesier if they went down some of the roads they could have went down. We would have been like,
Yes.
"Oh, okay, typical ending, right?"
Yep. Yep.
The other thing is like I couldn't get a sense of time, like
That's a
through
good critique.
like because
I
time
agree.
seems to kind of just pass, and it's fine, it's not a big deal, and like I'm not obviously taking any points away from it, but like the mother character, things happen faster. I don't want to give that away, but things happen faster than I thought.
Agree.
And it seems like he writes the book
I was
in
just gonna say
one
that.
one night.
Yeah, the book materializes after that one scene that I just described a minute ago, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what? It's already out and being seen? Like, what?
Which
Where
is
was?"
fine, it's
Yeah, they had
fine.
to do. I get why they had to, but I felt the
Yeah,
same way. I'm like, wait, this is where'd the time go? Yeah,
yeah,
and even in his
and
relationship,
yeah,
he meets a woman in this movie.
yeah,
They have they're building a relationship, and that goes up and down really quick. Um, but yeah,
yeah.
man, there's a funeral scene on the beach that is so funny. Again, another white character that's just so
Oh my god,
cringe.
that is such a good. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
there's some great moments. I
they're really
like.
drawn
I
well, drawn very
Yeah,
well. And
yeah.
everyone here is a real character.
Yes,
Sterling K. Brown, his brother, has a
yes,
whole life and interiority and his own issues and shit that he's dealing with that makes
yeah.
Monk have to do and pick up the slack because his brother has all these issues that you'll see if you watch the movie, and it's like I could see a family like this. Like families are just like this.
That character took me a while, like to really understand what was going on. He at first he didn't feel well drawn out, but then as things progress, you're like, oh, I get this
Yeah,
character. I
right.
understand what he's going through right now,
Yeah, at
and
first I'm like, why is he this way? Like
what's
it's
he?
kind of a rude move. What's his problem? And
Yeah,
then we learn more and
exactly.
more and it's like, oh, okay, I get
Yeah,
it.
and there's a really good moment with that near the end that almost made me tear up. But
Yeah, I put in my review, listeners, that I thought I would be coming out of this in a ball of tears, but um I ended up not. I could see people crying in it for sure, but
I
I just
didn't.
thought
But there's sorry, I didn't. But there's a couple moments where like, it could have got me, like if I was in the right frame of mind.
yeah, there's a really nice scene on the deck when they're having a party
Yeah,
when him and Sterling K. Brown have a heart to heart.
yeah,
Um I think it's like really pressing and like um urgent. This movie feels like people need to see this. This feels just so realistic to a lot of people's experiences today in media um
yes.
in society and how things work today.
And
Yeah,
I have heard from like actors, right, in the past saying like, oh my god, I just because I'm black, I don't want to do another slave movie,
right.
right?
I've heard that
I
too.
I can't remember who said it or if a couple people have said it, but it's like I'm a black person, but all I seem to get is like, hey, we need you. Can you play this slave in this movie or something along those lines? And I'm not trying to, but um, and this kind of tackles that a little bit.
Yep.
There's actually a scene I really like near the end where they kind of touch on that. It's just a brief moment. Maybe I can tell you later. Um,
I think I know. Is it when they're discussing the ending with the
yeah, he's
director?
with his brother in a car, and then he kind
Oh,
of
okay.
something. Yeah. Um, And then the other thing too is like we're saying like, yeah, people need to see this, right? Like people need to like see this, and I think it's truthful, but like, is it? Like
I
people are
know. I know.
responding to it, so obviously it is, but are there because like that other author in the movie, like she's looking at him saying like, no, you're wrong. And it's like, so, and they are two black people having this discussion. So are there other black people who are on her side? You know what I mean?
Yes. I want to read a dissenting opinion for this movie because, like I
Yeah.
said earlier at the beginning, maybe we're the problem. Like, we're watching this movie,
Yeah.
and if it didn't have those elements in it, it wouldn't be as
Hmm.
big a movie. Like, again, it's so meta that
But
it's
it's,
like
yeah,
deliciously meta. It's
exactly. My brain
and
was
it,
just on fire in the best way possible. It
yeah, I
just
was just
hit.
thinking through it. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
god, it's just so clever. It's just so clever.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the acting in it.
Right.
Jeffrey Wright is just excellent. He is
Yeah.
so good. We've seen him in a
Yeah.
million things as a character actor, but
Yeah.
here he really shows depth and understanding, and you empathize with him immediately, even though
Hmm.
he's someone that I probably would never hang out with. We don't have similar interests, but
And
he just
sorry.
seems like a good guy. Yeah, go ahead.
And halfway through the movie, though, he kind of becomes a little bit of a dick. Like, he
Definitely.
has some dickish moments where you're like, wow, that was kind of what? But, like, that's being a person. That's life, you know?
Yes.
Um, and I was also thinking as I'm watching this, like, you know, a month ago, I was saying it's so nice to see Barry Keoghan in a lead role. And now it's so nice to see Jeffrey Wright in a lead role. And
Agreed.
and he was great. And people have been going on about Sterling K. Brown, and at first I was like, but then as the movie went on, I'm like, yeah, he's doing a great job.
He is. He's
Um,
awesome in this.
yeah, so this is it's well acted all around.
Yeah, I just want
So
to have a couple more things to say, and then we can wrap up. Um,
this guy. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I love the music in this movie. I'm a jazz fan. I'm a blues fan,
Yeah, it
and
was nice.
they had some really good choices of music for it. I can't remember. I wish I'd written it down, but a lot of the songs I recognize.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. I did a blues tour through Memphis, Tennessee, and
Nice.
down to Clarksdale, where blues started, and to New Orleans. I have an uncle who's very musically inclined, and he took me on a couple of trips. And that was when I was like 14, so I was very impressionable.
Yeah.
So I like that stuff. I like Miles Davis, and I like a lot of the blues too.
Nice.
So the music choices were awesome and very effective. This is set in Massachusetts, where I vacation and where a lot of my family's from. So a lot of
Right.
scenes were recognizable. They looked to be on Cape Cod. I think they were. And that's where I go every year for vacation. So that was nice to see. Um, there's some cool camera work. I mentioned this being a debut. There's lots of long takes that were nicely done. They were very, very nice. There was a scene where they held on people dancing for a while, which I thought was poignant. Um, and yeah, I put it's very ironic because it's making fun of its audience. I felt like I could see someone saying, "I just feel attacked from this movie." Um, I have the
Yeah.
only nitpick I have, and this is one. This is another one of those things like the toothpaste on the toothbrush, Mitch, where I hope I don't bestow this on you. But God, it just sticks out to me. Sound design. When you watch a movie or a show and someone opens
Hmm.
a door, they always use the same sound effect of an opening door, and it drives me crazy because you don't need a door to squeak. Not my door doesn't squeak. Like, it's just this ring. Like every time a door opens,
Every
it was used in
time.
this movie. It
Yeah.
drove me crazy.
But it's funny, like, it squeaks every time until they need it to be silent.
Right.
Because then it's like,
Like
oh,
if
like,
the characters are talking in the room, they don't want you to hear Grandpa.
right. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden someone's at the door. We didn't hear the door open. Yeah,
The
no,
last time they came through it, it squeaked. Yeah.
exactly. And I
That's
feel you.
that's
It
just
doesn't bother me that much, but
yeah. It's right. It's stupid. It makes no sense
I
to
didn't know that
bother
was
someone. But
Massachusetts. I wouldn't have pegged that as Massachusetts, but I also uh don't know what I would have pegged it at, somewhere
yeah, it
south.
was
But
on the
then,
Cape, and the Cape is kind
yeah,
of known as like the wealthy yuppie area. Kind of like
see.
the Berkshires. What's the one on Long Island where presidents live and go? Nantucket,
Uh,
Nantucket. Cape Cod's right by Nantucket. You can take a boat from the Cape. I've taken a boat from Cape to Nantucket,
I
but
once
Nantucket's like next level wealth.
I once knew a man from Nantucket.
Yeah, I hear the stories of him are exaggerated, so take it with a grain of salt. Um,
uh
I love the movie. I gave it 5 stars.
Me
I
too.
love it.
Yeah,
I want more people to see it, and I want to hear more discussion about it. If you
me
find
too.
a dissenting opinion, I bet you who's that critic on Rotten Tomatoes that everyone hates? He's a black dude. Norman White? Armin White? Yeah,
Armin
Armin
White.
White. He hates
Yeah.
all the good movies, so I would love to, and he's a black man. I'd love to hear his stupid opinion on this.
Yeah.
He's the only negative review for Toy Story 3. He was for a while.
Oh my god, I remember that. I
Yeah, it's
remember
like
that.
yeah, it was like people get mad. It's like, who cares? One guy didn't like it, so it ruined the perfect 100. Who cares?
But then that he's the reason they had to remove commenting on Rotten Tomatoes.
Is it really?
Yeah. Like you used to be able to comment, like reply to people's reviews, and him, and then it was like, obviously like some Trump led things and right and left stuff. But so before we get into Poor Things, just give me 1 second. I got to turn on my light because it's gotten dark out now because I'm in fucking Canada where it gets dark at 4 p.m. Hold on.
It's not dark yet.
Well, that's better. So yeah, Poor Things. We've been kind of sitting on this one for a while. I know Ant has talked about it. I don't know to what length, but
yeah, I wanted to wait until you saw it because I knew you were going to. I think we talked about it a lot, just in that we were both dying to see this.
yeah, why don't we actually save it for the end? So then we can maybe, because it's one where I really don't want to give like anything away. So we could just like talk a bit of spoilers at the end, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay. All right. So let's jump to Wonka because this has been out for now 4 or 5 weeks, and we haven't really talked about it, but we both saw it opening week. Obviously, everyone probably knows about this movie. It is a movie from last year, Wonka, PG. With dreams of opening a shop in a city renowned for its chocolate, a young and poor Willy Wonka discovers that the industry is run by a cartel of greedy chocolatiers.
Hey, would you turn your gain down just a tiny bit?
You don't like to hear me?
No, it's just a little. It keeps chopping
Going
up
in and out. Yeah.
Just do a tiny bit down.
How do I? Oh, hold on 1 sec.
I think it's the adjustment on your mic, right?
Yeah, no, I know. I just testing.
Oh, you were
testing.
Oh, marking it. That's cool.
Testing. Is that higher?
Oh, that's higher. Yeah. Go back. Sorry,
okay, testing. How's that?
There we go.
Testing. If I yell.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know once I get going, I like talk louder. So it's like
I thought I should have told you sooner because it was happening at the beginning.
It's okay. It'll modulate, but thank you. So Wonka, we were saying 7.3 on IMDb. It was up for a couple Golden Globes there. And so Timothée Chalamet plays Willy Wonka. It has a really big cast. Not everyone's like noticeable. Obviously Olivia Colman, Patterson Joseph, Tom Davis, Matt Lucas, Keegan-Michael Key, but I don't really think there's anyone other like huge that you would know. Was there anyone else that you remember?
No, that's good. That's good enough. Yeah, there's some. You mentioned the big ones.
Yeah,
but we do need to mention the director,
Paul King.
Paul King, who is the director of the beloved Paddington 2. Of course, Paddington 1 as well, but Paddington 2 as well. So that was kind of a good sign when this was coming out, like, oh, well, he's got it. Okay. So other than that, he hasn't done much else that I know.
No.
But of course, Paddington 2 is just divine. I love that movie. And yeah, so we have Willy Wonka here. This is supposed to be a prequel before he becomes the man we know from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the classic film. He's down on his luck. He arrives in a new town. This is actually a musical, which was hidden from the trailers for the most part. But I wasn't bothered at all by it. I thought the songs were pretty good and whimsical, and Timothée Chalamet is a great Wonka. The one criticism I've heard, which I would agree with, and I know why they did it, but it's still stupid. This doesn't seem to be an earlier version of the Gene Wilder character we know. He was a little crazy, a little evil. He liked to see the bad kids get hurt. Like, he had a dark side to him, and this Wonka is just perfectly innocent, loves kids. And some people say, well, that's he turns into that later. I
Mm-hmm.
I disagree. This is just a fresh take on the character,
Yeah.
because they need it to be, and that's fine. Um, but I did end up enjoying this. I had a good time at this. I think you did too, and you took your kid or kids.
Yeah, I took my kids, and my youngest absolutely loved it. I said that this movie is so meticulously produced. Like every scene is kind of like you don't know what to look at because there's just so much going on. Like the production design, the costumes, the ideas, and the colors and the characters are all different and wonky and crazy.
And the
And
little tricks he does with his briefcase and all his ideas are very
yeah,
magical and creative and thought
the
through.
little the little things, like, it's like when he pulls open his, right, like you said, like he pulls open his briefcase and he's got these little things. Everything, like, it looks like it took somebody so long to get all of this done. Like, I don't know how anyone would do it. There's a lot of character actors in this.
Did you say
You,
Olivia Colman?
yeah,
Okay.
Olivia Colman's fun. I don't know
Yep.
why she needed to be in there, like, because she's such a big name, but
Yeah,
she
it's a
was
small
fun.
role, but she played it well. She was sniveling and gross, as a slumlord or slum owner of the
Yeah,
hotel. There was a couple characters, and this is another like nitpick thing, is when they make these old movies or movies set in old times, because they're actors, they all have these perfectly pearly white teeth, and they're supposed to
yeah,
be dirty. And like, there's a brute that works for Olivia Colman in the hotel, and he's like a drunken slob, and he's supposed to be a scumbag, and he has like these amazingly bright white teeth. I'm like, come on, dude, put some dirt on him or something for the movie.
but they made Olivia Colman's teeth look pretty ugly.
They did, and I'm like,
So
okay, so the technology, like do it for the other
exactly.
people. Like the people she has working for him in the basement. Same with them. That's a small minor thing. It's just, I
You're
just
funny.
noticed it.
I it's so funny that you picked that up.
I know. I don't know
Um,
why, but it just they're so bright and white. I'm like, God damn. Um,
And you know what?
yeah.
Honestly, all I have to say is at the end of the day, this is 1000% better than it needed to be, just
Yep.
like Paddington and Paddington 2. So much effort was put into this that I gave it 4 stars. You know what? It could deserve more. I don't know. Like it probably does because it's just like there is nothing really wrong with this movie. Really, I mean, the story overall, like, you kind of know what's going to happen, obviously, right? That's like if you had to nitpick it. But I don't, if this seems like your kind of movie, you're going to like it. You're going to love
Yeah.
it.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
and it's family fare. It's safe for everyone.
yeah.
It's I could see this being on during Christmas time every year. I
Yeah.
wouldn't turn it off or change the channel. It's fun. It's got a good heart. It really does its job. I think going in with lower expectations because of the last one, because it was a prequel to a beloved franchise, that puts me on a little high alert. So it was easy to solve. There was controversy about Hugh Grant playing a little
Oh,
person in this movie.
well,
Some said that takes away jobs from little people actors. I think that's an interesting
but he,
criticism.
but he wasn't even like really a little person. He was a tiny Oompa Loompa.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but in the movie we love, though, that role was played by
True. Yeah.
little people. So, but I didn't have a problem with it. He was great as this character and funny, and yeah, he was just really funny. He was great. He had his set of values and he stuck to them. He says the Oompa Loompas come from a certain island. Blah blah blah. They have a code they follow.
That was
So
fun.
I rated this 2.5, and
What?
I because well, and I because it's just fine. Like you said, it's funny that our ratings are so far
Okay.
apart, but this is 2.5 to the positive. It's just fresh. It's totally fine. I liked it enough. It's okay. You know,
You're always lower than me on things,
I
though.
know, I
So,
know, I know. I like for this to have gotten a better rating for me, for Anthony watching a movie in 2023 based on Willy Wonka. I I would want to see more of a more of a story told that isn't something we've seen in other kids movies with a simple ending. And again, with seeing Willy Wonka and having his dark side, there's no dark side to this character. He is perfect, nice,
Yeah.
and he's aloof. He doesn't even know when he's being swindled. He treats the little slave girl nicer than anyone else. So, yeah. So
Yeah.
again, I liked it. My 2.5 is a positive 2.5, but
I think you should bump
yeah,
it up to 3. I think you should bump it up to 3.
I'm not too stuck to 2.5. I could live with 3. It's
I
right
gave
around
it
there.
4. I mean, just yeah, but I do get it. I get what you're saying. The other thing I was gonna say, not a single memorable song in the
I was just gonna.
movie besides Pure Imagination, which is an incredible classic that Gene Wilder did, wonders for. And it's quite obvious that there wasn't really any memorable songs because nothing from the movie made it onto the short list for original songs
Or
for the
even the
Oscars.
guilds or the Golden Globe. Like none of the other awards have I seen
Yeah,
so far. Maybe there's an outlier, but
they
yeah, I was
completely
just gonna say
ignored
the
it.
same. There were no other songs do I remember from it except Pure Imagination, which was done really great. There's a scene in the courtyard
Yeah.
when he first gets to Whoville or not wherever he is. Um, that is really cool and fun against the chocolatiers that are against him, where he's
Yes.
giving out candy that turns people to certain things, and that was really fun. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in for this movie now. So yeah, it should have said something. It should have made a point. It pulls in the Catholic Church, and
Yeah, it does a little bit, eh?
and
Yeah.
there's real no. It's pretty no criticism. No. Yeah, no mess.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a kids movie. It's fine. It's totally fine. It's a good movie. If you need something to watch, it's worth a
You could do
watch.
a
I
lot
think.
worse.
Yeah. You could see like a Minions movie or something. This is way better than something like that.
Yeah. To be
And
fair, Wonka did put only one song up for nominations.
okay,
It's called A World of Your Own, which I couldn't tell you which one that is, but
yeah.
so yeah. So anything more?
No, that's it. Wonka.
No.
We'll see. It made money. Maybe they'll make another. Timothy Chalamet. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
He's great. I like him.
What do you think about a sequel?
I was
Nah.
just gonna say I could see them making another one. Um, sure. Why not? Paddington 2 ended up being better than Paddington 1, so Wonka 2 could be better than Wonka 1.
See, my thoughts are make a sequel and we get to see it get a little darker, right?
Right. Yeah. Maybe they do show
That's
some
my
more.
thought. But
Take it PG-13 and we get a little more
yeah.
of a bite, some more teeth in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Wonka. We both liked it enough, and
Yeah.
it could have been way, 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 way worse. So
Yeah.
they did a good job here. 3, 2, 1. All right, next movie that we're gonna do is Society of the Snow. This is a Netflix movie that was released into theaters just for a couple weeks and limited. I got to see it at the Landmark Theater here in Atlanta. This is I think Mitch fact check me on this. I think this is Uruguay's entry or submission for best foreign language film.
Yes, I think so, but keep talking and I'll check it out.
Okay. Yeah, so this is directed by J.A. Bayona. That name should sound familiar to you for 2 reasons.
Fallen Kingdom.
He did a great movie called The Impossible with Ewan McGregor and a very young Tom Holland and Naomi Watts called The Impossible. It is excellent. It's about the
2004
tsunami in Thailand.
Thailand.
Yeah. But then and he also did a Monster Calls.
Yeah.
But then he did one of the stupid and terrible Jurassic Park movies. Like
it's not as bad as number 3.
No, it's not as bad as number 3, but it's, I think, creatively bankrupt. But anyway, this is a story that you've probably heard of. I knew about this because of a certain activity that takes place during this movie. So it's based on a completely true story from 1972, a Uruguayan Air Force flight chartered to take a rugby team and their friends and some of their family to Chile from Uruguay, crashes into a glacier. Just by mistake, they are heading through the mountains and it's a whiteout, and they're realize they're flying too low and they just don't have enough time to pull up, and they crash into the tops of the Andes Mountains. where they are covered in snow. The plane falls apart into pieces. Lots of the people die on impact, on when they crash or being sucked out of the plane, and they are trapped there for like 2 months, almost 40 something days. We learn kind of why. Of course, you're like, well, wouldn't a search party be going for them? Yes, but there's some circumstances that make it so they aren't found for way, way, way longer. It is so harrowing, of what these people had to go through. I thought, just excellent. Yes.
Just don't give away too much. I know it's a real story, but
Yeah. No,
I didn't know anything going in, which, maybe I'm stupid, but and I shouldn't have.
you
I
hadn't
should
heard
have.
about this.
No,
Oh, okay.
nothing. I
All right.
knew about the movie Alive from the
Yes.
90s,
Yes. Yeah.
97 or something, I think, which I do
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
want to watch now. But it's crazy how I knew nothing about this.
Okay. Well, you knew what happens in Alive, because everyone knows what happens in Alive, right?
No, I no idea. I just
Oh.
remember
Oh.
all I remember is the cover. But I mean,
So The
sorry.
Simpsons did a couple jokes. No. I think you're right
Oh,
to warn me to not spoil, because I don't want to, because I don't care. It's not important to tell the synopsis. But I'll say, like, The Simpsons made a couple jokes about Alive, and that's why I know
oh,
about it, I guess, because as a kid I remember seeing that. And then late night comedians, Saturday Night Live, like, everyone talks about that thing that has to happen in this movie. Um,
yeah, yeah.
you just hear about it from time to time, just because it's just so awful. So
Well,
I thought,
and sorry, and I do
no,
feel
you,
bad for even saying anything, because like I have told people that they should watch this, because even if you know the full story,
yeah.
like
Let's say
they're
that.
watching it and seeing it and living in it is just nuts. So last thing I'll say, take it away, Ant.
Yeah. I agree. If you know what happens,
Yeah.
still a good watch, because I did. If you didn't know what happens, probably even better, because it's just tough. It's just such a
Yeah.
hard way to survive out
Oh my
there.
god, yeah.
I mean, they're in a place. There's nothing. There's no like. There's nothing. They have the plane for their
Nothing.
safety, and that's about it. And of course, they were traveling to play rugby. So and there's a ton of people on the plane too. I didn't know there
A
were that many
lot.
people. So it's just remarkable, harrowing. They made a choice here to not use any name actors, as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
And I apologize for not being able to. I'm not going to attempt a lot of these names, because they're Portuguese, I think, or maybe just Spanish, and I'm just so American, I can't do a lot of these. But um, I think it was a good choice for them not to pick any big names or people I would recognize, because it felt more realistic. I didn't know these people, and it didn't hurt them
And
as far as acting goes, because I thght everyone here did just fine.
mhm.
What were you going to say?
I was just gonna say, and I think that would have led the focus towards
Yes.
one person, especially with the way they tell this story and they frame it through certain people's eyes. You don't know where it's going and what could happen, and there's definitely kind of a twist there that you don't expect coming. If you kind of get what I mean, it's not like a twist, but it's
Right.
like,
Right.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, I wasn't really expecting that, but yeah. So continue.
Yeah, so a challenge with this movie. So I not gonna keep it secret. I really liked it. I think I gave it the same rating as you, 4 stars. But there's kind of two challenges or downsides that I had with it. And back to the characters, what you just said. There are so many characters that it's hard to really get attached or get to know any of them. They
Hmm.
set some stuff up. They show some games of rugby early on, and then you got to pay attention, because the way that people play the rugby game are ways they might act once they're in this
Yeah.
position of
Yeah.
despair. But yeah, coming out of it, I don't remember a specific person really over any of the others, which is okay. It didn't really take away from the movie. And then the other thing was, I thought it was maybe just a tiny, tiny bit too long. I think
Yeah.
it's two
I
hours and
agree.
20 minutes. There's some stuff in the middle they could have cut. Now,
Yeah,
without, beyond so you would agree with those two things?
I would agree.
Um,
Well, the only thing I would disagree with about the characters is, for me, there was like
couple.
maybe four characters that I kind of knew. Okay, like especially near the end, you're like, okay, I know those are those two people, and I know you knew this one, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's fair. I maybe wasn't paying as close enough attention, and I thought a lot of them look pretty similar. They're just because they're
Yeah.
males of this age in this
Yeah,
region of the world.
there's like 2 women, I think, in total.
Yeah, yeah. So, but again, that's very minor. They overcome those things in this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
I want to start out by saying the initial plane crash is filmed excellent and terrifying, terrifying. It's not just like a piece comes off and then you see a plane go down. We see it from inside the plane, and
I will
how,
forever want to sit near the back.
dude, the way the seats collapse on each other is just, oh my god, it's terrible.
Awful.
Like really hard to watch. Uh, it's just tough, and I'm watching. I'm like, damn, other plane movies missed out on showing this because this is good, good filmmaking and
The
prop or CGI. However they did it, it was excellent.
the one sweet, nice old lady fucking just gets it the worst. And in so
People get
sorry.
pulled out, the tail,
Oh,
parts of the plane fall off with other people in it. It's like, and
yeah.
then of course, since they're flying, they land who knows where. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, it's like, so that's the movie. We're stuck in this wilderness. They got to start to figure out everything. Where are we going to get food, shelter, water, blah blah blah. How do we catch rain? Like, how do we treat the injured? Let's open so go through the steps of what you would do to survive. And can we get a radio working? Can we put the technology together to get something? And what happens if we see a plane? Do we need to put signs? Like, you just go through survival mode. And oh
Yeah.
man, they have some close calls, and it's just like, oh God, I mean, if it, so many times throughout this, I'm like, I'd be dead. I would have given up. I'm just not that strong.
The first night, I would have slit my own throat. Like, it's
Yeah,
so fucking
just walked
cold.
out into the cold. I would just like
I
give up.
mean, I felt the pain for them, like watching them huddled up on the first night, and they have nothing to keep them warm. They're not used to it at all. They're just dying.
Yep, slowly, and they, and then infighting happens, and people want to make certain decisions, and others disagree, and so it's an interesting movie to watch. And you put yourself in that position. What are the decisions you would make? And as the days go on, that you have to then realize to the fact that, are you going to get rescued at all? Like, that
Yeah,
is a serious concern. Like I said at the beginning, I guess I shouldn't have spoiled the amount of days, but they're out there forever, which must have been an
yeah,
eternity. I mean, you're permanently changed after something like this.
yeah,
So, and
yeah.
your friends dying there, it's tough. It's really tough. Made very, very well.
Very well.
I thought the way they made tools was very clever. The stuff they put together, the things they're able to build. I
Yeah.
mentioned one of them already. I don't want to say it specifically. Um,
Hmm.
they did I thought there was a nice way of showing time passing.
Yeah.
One or two of the characters belt loops. He runs out of loops because
Yeah.
he is
Yeah.
so skinny. That was a nice little touch. Like, oh shit, they've been out here forever. Losing so much
Yeah.
weight. Some of the scenes, and this could have been an issue with my theater, were a little too dark. A lot of times in the plane, I had a hard time seeing who was talking, what was around them. But that could have been the theater. It's an old ass theater.
Hmm.
They keep getting hit with adversity over and over.
Oh
I
man.
mean, you know what I'm talking about. There's a
Yeah.
scene where, oh
About
God, it's
halfway
like,
through the movie where you're just thinking, oh, like, what are they gonna do? How are they gonna spread this out over 2 hours? And then something happens,
oh, it just keeps getting worse and worse.
and
Like,
you're just like, is that at the end? And
right.
then it just keeps going. And
Yeah.
because the perseverance that you see in these people, and we're in our nice, warm little
Yep.
homes watching this movie, and I'm like, fuck, good for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
yeah, they
sorry,
they
keep going.
persevere. No, I'm getting to the end of what I have to say about it. They really persevere. The tragedies they have to go through just keep getting compounded on top of each other.
Yeah.
Um, and it's yeah, it's really really good. I can see why it was submitted. There's a lot of competition for this category this year, so I don't know if it'll win or if I wanted to win, but I think it's worth a watch for anyone and everyone. It's amazing that it's a true story. These people are heroes for making it through. Again, I wouldn't have been able to, I don't think. And I had a thought. I just had a thought about just humanity as a whole. I just thought humans are so amazing, and maybe all mammals are. We're so amazingly adaptable to our scenario. You think of someone in prison in solitary confinement, which is horrible, but like you can live
They
that way
figure it
for a
out.
long time. These
Yeah.
people are able to live with these no resources for a long time.
Yeah.
People adapt to all kinds of, and whenever you see news stories of people in the ghettos of India or something, and you're just like, how do they live that way? Picking through trash. Just humans are adaptable. We adapt to our environment, and it's pretty
Yeah.
incredible. Kind of amazing that
Yeah.
we can have this huge range of adaptation. And there's people that live in the Arctic Circle in igloos, and there's people that live at the equator where it's 70 degrees all year round. So
Yeah. Like, I don't know, just you talking about it, like, put that feeling back into my heart that I had during watching it at many moments. And when a movie can make me feel like that, I think it's very well done. And this man did this with The Impossible. He made me feel that way with his movie The Impossible.
good call. Good call.
It is one of my, if I would put it in top 100, 150 movies of all time. I think it was so well done. That's one of the movies I try to, if somebody says, what should I watch? And they haven't seen The Impossible, I'm like, you're going to like it. No matter what, like nobody's going to walk away from The Impossible and say they're not going to like it. And
Yeah,
this
and
one,
that's a good
sorry.
call. Let me say something about The Impossible. I think I got to it because of Anderson on the Film Vault podcast,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
recommending it a few times. And
Yeah.
I mean, so I went to it, and I agree. It's just great. It's just so good.
So good.
And he was a good choice to pick for this story here. So
Yeah.
they did it well. But yeah, agree. The Impossible is great. If you haven't seen it, 2012, it's really good.
Yeah. And so director J.A. Bayona, like he said, he did one of my beloved Jurassic World movies. And, it's probably my second least favorite. But you can still see J.A. Bayona's marks on the movie because he knows, like, that the opening part of Fallen Kingdom, and I don't know if you don't know Fallen Kingdom, you're not gonna, but the first 40 minutes are great because that's what J.A. Bayona does. The destruction of the island, the volcano, the things, the dinosaurs running. It's a lot like the tsunami in The Impossible and the plane crashing in
Good call.
Society of the Snow.
Like nature chaos, he does
Exactly,
well.
he's good. Like he starts you off with a bang. And in this one, like the plane crash is crazy. But with this one, unlike Fallen Kingdom, or in a lot of ways, Monster Calls, I didn't love that one. He keeps your focus the whole movie. I felt like I could have done with a lot of the religious talk. That is kind of what bogs down some of the movie.
Yes.
Is there's a lot of like to questioning God, what's that, moments of faith, a lack of, what do they call that, like where you're having a
lack of faith is where you're tested the most or something,
like where you're like
moments of adversity is where you're tested, your faith is tested
like
the most.
a test of faith or whatever, right? And
yeah
one guy's
good
like,
call.
well, why would God do this to us? And the other guy's saying, well, because and he's trying to help him through his crisis of faith. Yes, and he's trying to help him through. It was great to see Adam Driver in this. Really cool.
Were you watching the wrong movie?
Dude, the main guy looks like Adam Driver.
He really does.
And I have a question because sometimes on this show I like to ask you questions that I didn't understand in the movie because of my little brain. What happened to that one guy's eyes? Do you remember they were all black around his eyes, and at one point, like when it started out, he could barely see?
Yeah, I don't know. Was it from the insane reflectiveness out there in the white snow, or was it an injury from the plane? And that's because some of them made some makeshift sunglasses, another tool.
But it happened like really early on.
You're right. I don't know. I don't know.
He was the one that had the sister, and they were both really injured.
Yeah,
and his eyes.
You're right. He didn't go outside.
If anybody's listening and they know, let me know. Really good score.
Oh yeah.
And it was Michael Giacchino, who I'm a huge fan of his composing work. He did all the Jurassic Worlds, but he also did Lost, which is like my favorite TV show of all time. So as soon as it ended and it says like Michael Giacchino, I turned to John and I'm like, I knew it. And he's like, well, you should have said it earlier. I don't believe you now.
Yep.
But it's just the little things. Like I didn't start crying until the end.
Yeah, the end packs a punch, people.
It does. Like it's and well, maybe that's giving something away, but there may or may not be survivors, and they may or may not have been at the premiere of the movie. And I saw pictures, and I thought that was really cool. But
yeah, I think whether you know or not what happens in it, it's great. I knew exactly what was going to happen, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, and I gave it 4.5. You gave it 4. There's one. This is not for the faint of heart, is one thing I'm going to say. But I think they do a really. I'm not going to say what it is, but everyone probably knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I think they do a really good job of working around it, and there's a couple hard scenes, like you're kind of like, oh.
And I'll say it for you. They show hard decisions that have to be made in a respectful manner.
Yes, exactly.
And we can leave it at that. It's tough. It's really tough.
But I really, fuck, I really like this film, and I feel like there's one thing else I was gonna say, but
it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. It's like over 2 hours. I get it. It's foreign language, so sometimes those two things are a barrier to entry.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth it.
I do too. Even if you skim through some of it, or like even just like fast forward, watch the beginning in a 1.5 speed or something. I don't know. It's good.
I think if you made it through the first hour, and then maybe like the last hour you were a little distracted, it's probably better. Like, you know what? I'm just like, that's.
I was getting antsy in the theater.
Yeah, I could see, because there's a little more talking, and there's only so many places these kind of movies can go.
Right.
I was surprised at just the lack of animals.
Right.
Like, there's nothing. I think we see a bird maybe flying once.
Yeah, and I know why that is. And it's the reason it doesn't matter why I know. In places like this, the snow is too deep, so it takes too much energy for animals with legs to trudge through it looking for prey. They go to the lower levels, the valleys and stuff, because the snow's not so deep. Just like it's hard for us to walk through thick snow. Imagine having 4 legs and trying to walk through snow up to your neck if you're a bear.
Well, not us Canadians. We can walk through any. Like, do you remember that scene in The Lord of the Rings where they're all walking up the mountain?
Yes.
We're like Legolas and how he can walk on top of the snow. But no, this sent me down a rabbit hole. I went to Wikipedia and I read the entire thing because I had so many questions. Like, why weren't they rescued earlier? Why did the people all I'll say is 8 days, really? 8 days. Do you know what I mean by saying 8 days?
Yeah, yeah.
Like 8 days.
I don't know. That's a long time to me. That sounds like a long time to me.
What?
It sounds like a long time. 8 days.
To be looking.
Oh. Sorry. I thought you meant something else. I don't know what the search and rescue. This is 72. How many planes does Uruguay have? Today, there would be an international effort, and of course, the U.S. would probably send planes and stuff.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. That I thought it was more than that. It was only 8.
No, it was only 8 days.
I thought it was 14. Okay.
And this is a minor spoiler. Skip ahead 10, 20 seconds. But
it's not. But
they went over the site several times.
Right.
We only see it once in the movie, but apparently they went over it several times. Sorry, I'm just
hard to see, right? Like, it's white on white
because of the white.
Yep. And the 8-day thing they say in the movie because the experts said there's no way they would have survived after 8. So we got to pause until the spring to resume our search.
And then we'll just get their bodies.
Which is fucking insane. Come on.
Anyways, no matter what we said, just watch this movie. It's really good.
There are people with that many people. There are relatives and friends and family members who would drop everything and go search themselves. If the army gave up like after 8 days, the parents and shit, like, I don't know my parents, but like I know some people would be like, I'm putting on snow boots, I'm going looking. I don't care if you're not, you're stopping. Like, like that would happen. And maybe some would get talked, but still some would go for it. And especially people that live up there, or hikers, or like there's experienced people that know how to traverse
today
that stuff.
for sure.
Again, today where that was what, 50 years ago now. So that things were different. I know, right?
So it's almost guaranteed to be nominated for foreign language film. I think, what do they call it now? International feature. So it's almost guaranteed. It's predicted by Variety to be the number 3 spot right now. And it was submitted by Spain and not Uruguay. But
thank you. I knew that sounded weird, and I would love to know why.
They were were they the Uruguay rugby team or the Ugandan?
Oh no, Uganda's in Africa, isn't it?
Yeah, so they were the Uruguay rugby team. That's why you said that.
I thought they were from Uruguay. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, they're from Uruguay, and I was just gonna see if there was any movie you just wanted to just give a quick thought on, but you kind of already did with.
Oh, I guess we could. No, I'll mention them.
Yeah, we'll save them.
When we have more time. Yeah, because none of these.
But people should skip Night Swim, kind of. Just wait for it to be streaming.
Yeah, it was a bummer. It's just not good. It's another Blumhouse January. It's a demon pool or a haunted pool. It's really stupid.
Okay.
If you've seen the trailer, and I know you probably have, and anyone listening, if you've seen that stupid trailer, the girl is in the pool playing Marco Polo, which we've all done, but she's gotten to like 9 Marcos and no reply, and she's like screaming in terror.
Keeping her eyes closed?
Keeps her eyes closed the whole time. Any person that is a human being would open and say, John, where are you?
Or Fish Out of Water. Did you ever play Fish Out of Water rules?
Yes, and they do it in the movie. She plays Fish Out of Water before that scene.
Oh my God.
Like, where are you? Why are you doing it? Like, bitch, open your fucking eyes. God, I hate this movie.
Oh, fuck, what was I going to say?
It's too safe. It's PG-13. It's just
okay. Well, we don't have pools in Canada because it gets too cold, so we can't have outdoor pools. But and the other thing I will just say is Self Reliance is on Hulu right now. If you're in Canada, you have to have the Paramount Plus thing or whatever. But it's really good. I had a lot of fun with it.
Agreed.
There's a homeless man that kind of steals the whole movie.
Definitely. Yeah. It's Jake Johnson directing debut.
From New Girl.
Yeah, the guy from New Girl, and he's a tertiary character in some other comedies and stuff. You've seen him in and around places. I think. Oh, he was in that terrible Mummy movie with
was he?
Tom Cruise. He was like Tom Cruise's buddy in that. But yeah, it's really funny. It took me by surprise.
I think so. You can do a lot worse.
Short. Yeah, you can do a lot worse. Anna Kendrick's in it, and what's his name from Lonely Island?
Andy Samberg has a couple of good parts.
It's great. Check it out. It's
Stevie
a good comedy.
from Schitt's Creek is in there. The brother-in-law part is. There's a lot. You know what? It reminded me a lot of Game Night.
Very good comp. True.
Yeah, just because like the Walter character kind of reminded me of Jesse Plemons' character in Game Night. But anyway, so I just wanted to say it's on Hulu.
Yeah, that's Self Reliance.
Self Reliance. I just give it a shot. So. Poor Things, set us up.
Okay, so Poor Things is 2023, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. This is a very anticipated movie for both of us and really cinephiles everywhere. I was introduced to him again by Anderson from the Film Vault, who loved Dogtooth. He talked about it so much years ago. I'm like, I had to check this one out. What is he even talking about? And my mind was blown away by Dogtooth. I was so shocked by it.
You made me watch it. You assigned it to me.
That's right. I had you watch it, and
I'm so thankful.
It was mind-opening because in my wildest dreams, I could have never come up with a story as creative. It's just very, very creative and weird and gross and disturbing because it's so it could happen that way. Like you never know what kids are being taught by their parents, and who's to say? Who am I to say they're doing it wrong? Like, so that
even if could have come up with like the story of the lobster, or the you know, the outline of Dogtooth, I would never have done things the way Yorgos did them. He
Yeah.
is a visionary. He's got a mind like no one else. That's
Really
all.
does.
That's
And
yeah.
and another thing I like about him, he's not afraid to show the full gamut of the human condition. Good, bad,
Yep.
sex, gross, everything. And I
Everything.
like that because studios don't take risks a lot with movies because they don't want to offend anyone. So they make a safe movie, and that's fine. Yorgos
Yep.
doesn't give a shit. He makes what he thinks is cool or interesting. And I like that. And I think that's what draws him to movie makers like him. So
Yep.
he also made The Lobster, which was very well received. The Favorite, which won what's her name? Olivia Colman, her
Yep.
second or first Oscar. And The Killing of a Sacred Deer was also a big hit. So he's been on a hot streak, and he's awesome. He's great. He makes cool movies. So this one has been talked about by since it came out by people for a very long time. He films again here with Emma Stone. We have Mark Ruffalo, William Dafoe, Rami Youssef, Gerard Carmichael has a small role. Christopher Abbott comes in at the very end-ish. Margaret Qualley has a tiny, tiny role in it. And the cast is peppered with some others that I don't recognize. And the story is this. This is very abstract. This isn't set in the real world. It's a very dream-like place. And it's people say this is a Frankenstein movie, and I'm like, it kind of is. I could see that, yeah. So Willem Dafoe plays a man who is a crazy scientist, and I can't really tell when this is set. Like, they do a good job here of, is this in the future? Is it way far in the past? Because they have some technology we don't have today, but it looks like they're in 1800s England. So brought back to life by an unorthodox scientist, a young woman, played by Emma Stone, runs off with a lawyer on a whirlwind adventure across the continents. Free from the prejudice of her time, she grows steadfast in her purpose to stand for equality and liberation. So she is a pure version of Ego, where she knows nothing of anyone else, social norms, anything. She's just like, think of like an alien just kind of dropped into today's world without knowing anything else.
Or think of Barbie in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's a good
A lot of
point.
people are comparing this to Barbie and how like she came
This is
to
like the adult version,
the
or real
rated R
version of Barbie.
Barbie.
Yeah, rated R Barbie. It's very explicit. It's
Yes.
very rated R. I heard there's a popular film critic on YouTube named Grace Randolph. I'm not a fan of hers, but she does a lot of early reviews, so I often see them. Anyway, I'll just say what she said. She thinks this should have been NC-17, and I could see the argument, I guess, but I'm glad it wasn't.
Actually, there's been a few articles since then saying if this wasn't NC-17, then shouldn't we just call the NC-17 rating dead? You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
but shouldn't but then the NC-17 could go to something like Human Centipede, right? But anyways,
no, because I don't even think the Centipede should be 17.
The second one should.
Yeah. I agree there. We should earmark. I want to have a conversation about this because I feel really strongly about the MPAA and the rating system and how it needs to be updated and how it makes no sense, et cetera, et cetera. Even I like Canada's system way better. Y'all's is so much better.
Yeah,
London's is better. Just 18, it's too old. Like when I was 15, 14, any of this shit, I already knew. Like I saw a beheading when I was 14 because someone on the internet thought it'd be funny to like shock me or whatever.
Same.
So exactly. We've all had this experience.
MSN, man, we shared some wonky shit back in the day.
There's so many more. Lemon Party, Rotten.com. What's the
One Man, One Jar?
Yes, the guy with the jar. The guy that does this. What's it called? Goatsy. That was
or
one.
The horse that killed the man.
Yes, and on and on and on. Right. So we saw that when we were 14. So like withholding something like this, while there's lots of sex in here and nudity, it's for example, this is nowhere as explicit, I would say, as the sex in Passages. Yeah, Passages. That was much more explicit, and we could argue about that. Anyway,
I respect Emma Stone so much and I love her so much, so that it just made this one seem wilder. But continue.
This movie brought her up for me, to level of respect. I always
Oh
liked
yeah.
her as an actress and thought she was
Yeah.
very good. But for her to take this role, and this sounds so stupid and cliche, is incredibly brave. The
Yeah.
shit she does on screen is
Yeah.
impressive, and she has to trust that director so much because you see as an actor you have to be vulnerable and embarrassing, quote unquote embarrassing, to do stuff like this in front of camera and in front of millions and millions of people, and she nails it
Nails it.
with a dart. She just crushes it. So yeah, really liked her. So anyway, yeah, that's the story. She gets put together kind of in a Frankensteinian way from a horribly disfigured Willem Dafoe. um, and the movie is really funny. And
Yeah.
Mark Ruffalo just sent me his. So people interact with her, Emma Stone's character, and they're so befuddled because she's unlike any person you've ever met before. They don't know what to do. Like, she makes these weird decisions for someone that has no baggage or understands social norms. And yeah, it's globetrotting. The design of the sets and clothing is just excellent. It's so cool and creative. Even the sky, like the beautiful clouds, and like they're on another planet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That the whole boat scene and everything, it felt like Wes
yes,
Anderson-y almost,
very very Wes Anderson. Yeah, so
in a good
I
way.
was floored by this. I loved it. I'm gonna see it another time.
Yeah.
I've got many more to say, but you tell me what you liked about it.
Well, I actually didn't like it. Just kidding.
Didn't you just say you gave it
I know. So Poor Things, I gave it, yes, I shouldn't start off with my rating.
a?
Um, yeah, like Avery on the Film Vault, he said the first 20 minutes he was kind of out, and I was a little bit out. The score was a little bit irritating and in your face. I felt like she was doing kind of like I'm sure you've seen Tropic Thunder, but she was kind of doing like a Simple Jack kind of thing, and
Definitely,
I was
definitely.
I was like, what are we doing here? This is
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
good.
You see Emma Stone in this as as her age she is today, 30 something, and she's playing like a
I
4-year-old baby. Like, it's pretty
I
cool.
thought she was playing like a mentally what's the
Yeah,
right
yeah, yeah.
word? Mentally imbalanced person.
Yeah,
I don't know.
intellectually disabled or whatever you're supposed to say nowadays.
Yeah, it's, you know what, like Yorgos, this whole movie, it's a little creepy. It pushes the
Pushes
boundaries.
boundaries.
Um, Willem Dafoe's character is a character I'll remember forever. All of his characters are so insightful. Like, I after that first 15 minutes ish, I was so into what was going on that when Mark Ruffalo showed up, I was like, no, I like
Me
this. I like
too.
what's going on.
Me too. I'm
Don't
like, no,
don't
don't take
do
her out
this.
of here. What are you doing?
Yeah. But
Felt the
then it
same
was a
way.
whole different thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, I should have just trusted Yorgos and his plans, and he just um took me on the right journey. I love a lot of the stuff on the ship, especially with that older woman.
She was
Um,
great.
she was
Excellent.
great. Jared
Perfect job.
Carmichael,
Yeah, he didn't work. He was like
it
the
was
only thing. I like him. He was in a movie with Christopher Abbott. Did you see it? It was called like The Last Day. They both decided to commit
yeah,
suicide together.
love that movie.
Yeah, he was fine in that, but he
Yeah,
just did not work here,
no,
unfortunately. That's my
no,
only like big nitpick.
yeah,
He plays, listeners. He plays like the cynical character, the negative person she runs into. So she's pie eyed and like everything is great,
right.
and the world is.
He's trying to bring her back down to earth.
He's like, look, lady, this is how the real world works. She's like,
Yeah,
no, no way.
yeah,
So that's his character. But aside from his character, he just didn't work. It just
no,
would
no,
have picked someone else.
for sure. And like, I don't know what he was trying to do with that character. They kept kind of like, he was not there and then he was, and
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
what are you trying to do? What are you trying to say? I felt like there was some stuff like later on that went on maybe a little too long.
Okay.
I'm not as big of a Mark Ruffalo fan as everyone is. I love him, but I felt like there was too much in here for me.
Okay.
Like, and I know I'm separate on that from most people, um but like by the like end of his storyline, I was like, okay, enough. Like, it was just kind of, but anyways, the sex scenes, I don't usually like sex scenes in movies. Like they always, a lot of the times they feel unnecessary. Like, do we really need this? Why? But these ones were like everyone is interesting. It's a new thing. It's interesting. It's a little bit creepy. It's a little bit weird.
Yeah,
Um,
funny. There's lots of them that are so funny
it's so
because
funny.
and they are
Like,
absolutely necessary in here because this is the first time she's learning about it, and it's just
yes,
funny of her observations about different types of sex with different type of people that someone would
yes.
have if they're a grown person just learning about sex for the first time.
And this movie is just so, there's so many deeper messages with all that, and like body autonomy, and women
Yeah, it's
saying, like,
really sex positive.
yeah, sex positive, and women saying this is my body and blah blah blah. I don't want to say blah blah blah. It's a big issue, but they
And in that same note, Mitch, like this is showing the folly of the white man. She calls Willem Dafoe God. He is God
right,
to her,
right,
and while he is loving to her, which is nice to see, I'm glad. Well, I don't want to spoil anything. I'm glad there was. I'm glad they didn't
yes,
take that relationship any further than it was,
yeah,
but it's showing that all the men in here are pathetic and they want to put boundaries on her. And all
yes,
the while, she's like, "What do you mean? This is totally fine. What I'm doing? What?"
yeah.
She's
But
confused
it
by it. And I
shows
thought that was good.
it shows the different. Honestly, with the four men characters in this movie, it shows like kind of the four different types of
Mm-hmm.
men.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
from pretty good to kind of shit, like really shitty.
yeah. Rami
Um,
Youssef, her first quote husband,
yes,
he turned initially
pretty,
it's kind of fucked up, but he turns out to be okay, right?
yeah,
Like,
right. And it's
yeah,
it's it's all very interesting. Um, yeah. So I think that's all I really want to say. I mean, I really, by the end, I really loved it. It's a lot like American Fiction, where my brain was just like, halfway through, you're starting to realize, not even halfway through, but you're starting to realize that this director or writer is saying so much more than what's on the
yeah,
screen.
yep,
And you can learn so much from this movie. And
yeah.
yeah, it's so well done.
Don't watch this with your parents for the first time.
No,
Definitely not.
no.
Um, because of the explicitness of the sex, but I thought it was just done so well, and um, there's a few more things I have to say. So I'm not too crazy. Yorgos does this wide angle lenses. Did you notice those?
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah,
There's a lot of them, and I'm not
didn't
really
bother
sure
me,
what he's
but
trying to say. There were tons of them in The Favorite, if you remember. Audience members,
mm-hmm.
that's like a fisheye lens where everything's kind of stretched and wide.
Yeah,
It's kind of a signature of his. I don't know what it does to tell us something. Usually camera movements and stuff are done for a purpose in storytelling.
yeah.
Don't know what it adds here, but
Me
not that
neither.
big a deal. It's his signature. Like I said at the very beginning of this review, I love how this is timeless. I couldn't place it exactly, right? Like there's a machine. So I'll give you an example. We're
Hmm.
set in like the 1800s England, but Willem Dafoe, when he eats, he has to burp and he uses this machine, and it's just bizarre and weird, and it's like very steampunk. I thought that was cool. There's some creative use of animals in this movie. That's another thing
Yeah,
that made it
yeah.
timeless. Like, wait, what is that?
What is going on?
Um, the sets I already said were really cool. The
Yeah,
movie is just funny,
costumes are
funny all
good.
the way through. There's some themes in here, like you were just saying about smarter people have more things to say. Class struggle is a big thing in this, but it's not harped upon. There's no message in this movie that hits you over the head, and that's why I like it. And that's the way I think to tell your story. Just like Barbie, Barbie has some moments, but Barbie told
Yeah,
a feminist say message without pounding it over your head, compared to say something like the new reboot of Charlie's Angels, which was like obnoxious with its
right.
do this, with its
I
message. So
think
yeah,
Barbie was like smart in a lot of ways, but it also appealed to a crowd that Poor Things isn't going to appeal to. Like, a lot of people who saw Barbie aren't going to see Poor
yeah,
Things,
yeah.
and this was like, not that people who saw Barbie aren't like smart.
Right,
I'm
right. I
just
get what you're saying.
I'm just saying that
Different
the people
audience
who
type.
are seeing Poor Things are probably ready to accept a deeper message, and they don't need things shoved in their face a little bit like Barbie did. And I'm
Yeah.
not trying to say anything negative about Barbie, but
No, I get what you're saying.
yes,
You love Barbie, so yeah,
I do.
yeah.
I
This
love
is
Barbie. So
calling this the R-rated Barbie is a great way to describe it in one sentence. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, I love this movie. I think I gave it 5 stars,
yeah,
and I will see it again. And I am just this just makes me even more excited for anything Yorgos does. He now is cemented himself in. I will be there day one for anything he ever
yep.
makes. And I really should go back and watch his other movies. Alps, I hear, is okay.
I need. Yeah, I've heard things about it, but I do need to go. I just bumped it up to 5 stars. Poor things. I had it at 4.5. I mean, maybe if on a rewatch, I'll enjoy Mark Ruffalo's character a little bit more, but
So we can talk spoiler stuff right since we're at the end right here. So
I
just
guess we
skip
don't really
ahead.
need to unless I guess I. What do you is if there's
No, there's not much, and what I'm going to say
okay?
is not too spoilery. I just want to say Mark Ruffalo, I found really funny, like when he went from kind of because I was with you at a little part when he goes to where she is working in France, and
Yes, we
he's
don't.
like,
We can get into spoilers. We're in spoilers now, so yeah. So
okay,
when she's
so when she goes to a
a sex
brothel,
worker,
yeah, she's working at a brothel, because she's just like, hey, that might be an interesting thing to do. I like having sex. We need money. Again,
yeah,
it's like you have no baggage. That's what you would
yeah,
think. It's totally fine. Um, he comes and he's just so flabbergasted, and I love when he's just like, "Who are you? What are you?" He can't figure her out because he's used to having control over women and women acting a certain way, right? And
yeah.
he's not just mad at her actions, but he's so mad at her not seeing the problem with anything she did,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And I love that he ends up in an insane asylum because she just drove him that fucking crazy. And then of course he goes to get Christopher Abbott, the
yeah,
real quote husband, back. And I love that the movie did this. Chris Abbott comes, breaks up the wedding with the nice guy that we want her to get with, and she says, and
okay,
in a fairy tale movie, she'd be like, "No, I love this guy," but she's like, "I'm gonna see what this is like. I wonder why I
yeah,
left him and try to." So she's like, "I'll go check it out." And
yep,
of course, we see immediately, that scene where they're at the dinner and he starts being a piece of shit to the wait staff. I think
yeah.
there's a moment where she has a realization, like, "Oh, now I see why I left to kill myself from this guy before."
There's a
So yeah,
there's a point where she, sorry, there's a point where she honestly has become smarter in some ways than them, or smart enough to understand, like, she sees this behavior, she says this is not what I want, this is fucked up, and I'm going to do something about it.
and he's like, "You're not leaving the property."
Yeah.
She's
and
like,
she
"Yes, I am."
and she immediately knows, well, that's not right, right? And
Yep.
it's like, you know a month ago she probably would have said okay, like,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
so
And I like how Willem Dafoe. I love that they have that
yes,
talk because that would
me
have been like,
too.
hey, like
Yeah,
that could have
yeah,
been. He starts on another one, Margaret Qualley. Remember?
right,
And
yeah.
she's too dumb. She can't. She's not picking up things like Emma Stone did. And
Yes.
so his experiment, that second one didn't work as well. So, yeah, it was cool. And I love how the surgery stuff that she learned under his tutelage comes back into play later.
Hmm.
So it was just all around great. Really, really good. I loved
And
it. Loved it. Loved it.
there is that religious thing there where I just kind of was thinking about it. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but like at the beginning she sees him as God, and by the end she still kind of calls him God, and she still maybe partly sees God, but sees him as like quote unquote God. And I think it's kind of like another religious thing where it's like, when you're young, it's like, oh, pray, pray to God, whatever. But like as you get older, your relationship with God becomes different. You start to see the world for what it is.
Yeah.
And by the end, you're like, okay, like God, but things are a little different now,
But
okay?
I got to
Like,
pay taxes, and
yeah, and there's kids dying in Ukraine. God, like, we might have a little bit of a different relationship now. And I like that. Like, she goes back to him, and what happens there is all I really liked. And,
and
um,
yeah, I agree. I agree. You're right. Totally right. And another thing, back to sex positive. when she's explaining her work in the brothel to her new to-be husband,
Mm-hmm.
his response is, "Good for you. Wow,
Great.
you only got
Yeah.
30 francs? You're worth way more than that. Like, you should
Yeah.
have charged more." And she's,
Yeah.
you know, she says she's learned now that some people look down upon that. So she said something like, "Oh, you don't look lesser of me because I've slept with 300 men or something." And he's like, "No, whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy."
At
Like,
first,
I
he's
like
kind of
that
like,
message. Yeah,
he's
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
You're
like,
right.
ooh,
His eyes like dart side to side, and then he's like, "Okay, sure," you know.
he's like, oh, you know what, whatever. I really love you, and who gives a shit? And it's like, oh, like good. I don't know. This movie's so smart, and I just want to say it's interesting. So this one was written by Tony McNamara,
Oh, I know that
and
name.
yeah, because he wrote The Favorite.
That's why I
He
know
wrote
it.
The Favorite. So this movie and Yorgos's last movie,
Oh, and Cruella. That's right.
Cruella. Yeah. So the last two movies Yorgos have not been written by Yorgos, but this feels more out there than anything Yorgos has made. The Lobster and
Ooh, you think so? Let me think about
Killing
it.
of a Sacred Deer and the Lobster are they have a very crazy concept, but I
I
mean,
would
I don't know.
say The Lobster. I would say Killing and Dogtooth are brothers in how crazy and out there they are.
More than
But
Poor Things then?
I would say about the same. I would say about the same.
Mm,
I, I'll just say this. I guess I don't really have a point to argue with what you just said. I'll just say that I think they're a good pairing together. The Favorite I like the least of the movies I've seen of his. It's fine. It's funny.
yeah,
But to
I
me,
think it's still really good, but
yeah. But this Dogtooth, Killing, they're all like much more interesting to me than a crazy woman in a castle, acting weird. Um,
yes.
So cool, with this being a hit now, at least with critics and awards,
Yeah.
it seems like he has a golden ticket to do whatever he wants next. I would take another pen by him or McNamara or anyone he chooses because I know it'll be crazy. So
Yeah, I mean, Poor Things has made almost 20 million worldwide. It's still in theaters, so I mean, I think that's pretty good for a movie like this, but I don't know what the budget was.
and
So,
it's still in limited. I think it's still only in
yeah,
800
it's
theaters.
still it's playing at least two of my theaters, so which is the budget was 35 million, but whatever.
That's okay. These kind of movies, like with the amount it's made already and the awards, I think
Yeah.
that they call that a wash.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's kind of a
exactly.
weird calculus. Like, everyone's like, "Oh, Killers of the Flower Moon is bombing because it cost 200 to make," and that's
Yeah.
true. I just said facts, but also Apple is looking to be in the prestige arena and be bumping
Yeah.
elbows with Martin Scorsese. Like there is some worth of value in the awards circuit. Um, so yeah. Anyway, we'll see what we have to do, or we'll see what Yorgos does in the future.
Yeah.
Good for him on this one. I'll probably get the poster. I want this poster badly.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. If oh, yeah, okay. I was gonna say if you get it free from the theater, but you're not
Oh, of
getting.
course.
Yeah.
No, I might have to buy this one.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was we got through some of the movies we really wanted to talk about. So we'll be back next week with a couple. There's a few smaller movies that we saw that I think we really want to talk about. Like Eileen
Yeah,
and Concrete Utopia and the Book of Clarence and stuff like that. So
yeah. There's I say we should list them, and let's do it. We can do another one early this week if
yeah,
you want, Mitch. Tomorrow,
sure.
Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, Origin. I saw finally. That's a big one from Ava
Yeah.
DuVernay. I saw that. Night Swim, Self Reliance. We talked about the Book of Clarence, Leave the World Behind. I finally saw Some Other Woman, and I saw Memory with Jessica Chastain and
Yeah.
Stellan Skarsgård.
Okay.
One of the Skarsgårds, and that was interesting.
And you said
So, and then
Monster?
and I saw Monster, and by the next time we record, I will have seen probably Mean Girls and The Beekeeper at least. So
Okay,
yeah,
I'll try to see
let's keep this going.
Monster. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to do that or
No,
not,
Monster.
whatever.
Sorry. I'm gonna definitely see Mean Girls at some
Okay.
point. So but anyways, yeah. Thanks everyone for listening. We're at an hour 40, but I'll cut some out.
Oh,
That's
wow.
okay. But yeah, go follow us on all the socials and YouTube. All the links are below. Yeah. Thanks
everybody.
Thanks, Ant. Yeah, good episode.
Yep. You too, man. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Hollywood Persona podcast. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at The Hollywood Persona. Feel free to email the show at thehollywoodpersona@gmail.com and make sure to rate, share, and follow on whatever platform you're listening to our show on. It's the little things that help. Thank you.
And you little shithead, you're staying here.